You're listening to Rookie Pirate Radio, the official anime and manga podcast for InBetweenDrafts.com. I'm John Negroni.
I'm Travis Hymas.
And today we're doing a manga recap of One Piece chapter 1121, titled The Upheaval of the Era. And Travis, what a coincidence. Upheaval of the Era is how critics described Rookie Pirate Radio in its first year.
Yeah, that's why we got that trophy, right?
I can't even imagine. I mean, just podcast critics. You'd have to really be in a state at that point.
I mean, there are podcasts that aren't just people talking to a microphone. Like there's like D&D podcasts. You could review those, right?
You could review it in like an audiobook podcast, I guess.
Yeah, but isn't that just an audiobook? Either way, if you're reviewing this podcast, you could
do it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Give us a rating.
There we go.
Thanks. As usual, we're going to be discussing spoilers for the One Piece manga up until this point. So if you have not yet read Chapter 1121, be sure to do so now for free on the Viz website or the Shonen Jump app, which we always link in the show notes. And remember, all new One Piece chapters are initially available to read for free up to 3 weeks after their official release. But you can also subscribe to Shonen Jump, and that gives you access to the entire One Piece library. Travis and I are both subscribers, and we are not paid to recommend it. All right. Travis Hymas, it is time to talk about One Piece. And I love talking about One Piece. I want to talk about One Piece all the time. But you know where my favorite place is to talk about One Piece?
Is it at your local coffee shop?
That's actually kind of close. It's at this school gymnasium. And I like to graffiti One Piece theories on the back of a gymnasium wall. But I've been thinking, Travis, what if there was a way for me to share my wild, insane One Piece theories, not just on Rookie Pirate Radio, but with a community of listeners and fans?
You know, John, this is usually the part of the show where I tell you that Discord is an app, and In Between Drafts has a server on Discord that you could join, linked in the show notes even, and you would have a perfectly spoiler-safe channel where you could share any kind of crazy One Piece theory without worrying about hiding things from other people, because our other not caught up people have their own fun meme channel to go play along in. You could talk about Deadpool and Wolverine even in the movies channel later once the embargo's up on that. You know, that kind of thing. You could do all of that, but frankly speaking, I've got to say, I just want to know how you graffiti those long One Piece theories on a single wall.
I'm way ahead of you, Travis. I'm way ahead of you because I've been taking pictures of all those theories and I've been posting them in the One Piece Spoilers channel, and you can check them out, and that definitely exists, and you won't be disappointed when you go to the channel and see that they aren't there.
They had better be there. But if they're not there, John,
I'll just transcribe them. You're right.
I was going to say, is there any other way you could send me those pictures? Like if we had some sort of mailbox or something as well?
Well, I guess we could always dust off the old rookiepirateradio@gmail.com. That's where lots of our listeners like to hit us up one-on-one anonymously.
Ooh, can you run that by me one more time? It just cut out a little bit for me.
You know what, Travis? I won't just do it one more time. I'll do it twice. rookiepirateradio@gmail.com one more time, and we'll start the show. rookiepirateradio@gmail.com. Aces.
Perfect.
Well, this week, Travis, we got to start our manga recap in a bit of an awkward place because Oda decided, you know what? It's summer. Do you have enough thirst traps? Probably not. But here was another one anyway. I'm assuming that this double color spread of Nami just being Nami. I guess we could assume like Oda had his wife model for that.
Yeah. Probably safe to say. Also, it goes so stinking hard. Look at the colors. There's
shading.
There's shading. I love seeing Jinbei in these color spreads, by the way, because like he's still kind of the guy who's just kind of here. He's just everybody's dad, so he's just like hanging out.
Yeah.
So I love
that. He's like taking his kids to Disneyland in like every color spread.
Exactly. You know, giant woman. This is one of those color spreads that goes so hard. I was talking about this quite a bit with my friends who are also caught up, and it just reminded us just like how much effort Oda puts into a normal chapter and then somehow finds an extra level of skill every time we do get a color spread. I hope when the series ends, one of the things we get is a proper like color walk of all of the 2-page spreads, all the covers all together.
What do you think my graffiti is backwalled against, Travis?
Oh, it's all of the spreads. Yeah.
It's just plagiarism, that's all.
Yeah, that's all it is. Yeah.
Well,
but it is gorgeous, yes.
It is. It's wonderful and lovely and nice. And I guess that is our cue to start the official manga recap. That color spread is pretty nice because it is the summer and it got me in the mood for some summer treats. But really, this chapter was a treat. We start with a quick shot of the giant warrior pirates. They are still trying to defend the Straw Hats against the Gorosei. In this case, Saturn is the one who is on the attack. Luffy is about to strike Saturn, but then he notices that Bonnie has actually recovered enough to go back into Gear 5. So it looks like Bonnie has some hockey. I think there was a little bit of like, does she have hockey? When does she have, like, is she going to be like totally knocked out for a while? She did, and I think she went into like a kid form, and it was kind of like when Luffy goes in the old man form. But anyway, Bonnie is back into her like sort of imitation of Gear 5th. And we see at one point, Luffy deflects one of Saturn's legs that's coming for Bonnie. And then when she's in the air, Luffy tells her to like go for the attack. We then cut over to Dr. Vegapunk. He is talking about the day, the history of the Void Century. I'm all over the place. He talks about the Void Century again, and he talks about he's like reiterating things. So like how the continents of the world were sunk by the ancient weapons. He talks about how someone's trying to erase different species and races. So we kind of get shots of like the Buccaneers, the Lunarians, the Three-Eye Tribe with Pudding, which was interesting. And then we then cut to Bonnie. Bonnie is yelling at Saturn that she wants to basically like get her revenge, as it were. Luffy is still defending against Saturn at this point. And then we get, of course, the memories of how awful Saturn was to Kuma, to Ginny. That's all flowing through Bonnie's mind. She then kind of just like declares war. She has her Enies Lobby moment, shooting down the flag against the 5 elders. And she says that gods and heroes do exist, and that she wanted to, be with her parents. She wanted to be, have that family. She has a bit of a Naruto moment there. And so she is going to, she wants to live like Nico Robin. Boy, the Straw Hat comparisons, they just never end. But yeah, so then Bonnie and Luffy have their own joint attack on Saturn. It blasts him to pieces, sends him falling toward the water. However, we don't see what happens when Saturn hits the water. We don't know if he has any kind of weakness to it. But anyway, everyone is celebrating and cheering them on. Even Kuma is seen smiling. And then that's when everybody notices that the Thousand Sunny is now falling toward them out of the sky. Vegapunk tells everybody who has resisted, the world government for so long are the ones who are actually really close to discovering the truth of everything. Roger was hoping this day would come, but of course, when he died, he talked about how his treasure was up for grabs if anyone could find it. And then this is starting to, in a similar way to Roger, it's starting to rile people up all over the world. We see the pirates on Fullaled. They are wondering, like, man, when's Blackbeard going to come back? We got to go find it. We got to go find the One Piece. And then we see the Cross Guild are all, kind of rallying around Buggy, which is always funny, and I'll never get sick of that joke. And then Buggy, of course, it's reminded that Buggy, unlike the other Roger pirates, doesn't know the true history, which his crew, I don't think, totally understands, because he was sick that day and did not go. And then the Marines also are talking about, like, some random Marines are like, oh, why don't we go get it? And then someone's like, no, we have to protect people. We're Marines. Come on. And then Vegapunk says that the person who does find the One Piece may not be the person that was intended to find it, like Joy Boy intended, but someone is going to find it, and if they do, they are the ones who will hold the fate of the world in their hands. Everything's going to be decided by who finds the One Piece. What a surprise. Now, okay, that's the end of the chapter, and I believe we have a break next week. we do end with this kind of killer like shot, like this killer double panel. And it kind of lays the groundwork for like, these are the contenders, right? The top of the contenders, if I could be so bold, Travis H. One of these people is going to find the One Piece. Most of us assume it's going to be Luffy because we know how shonen works. But just to say that these are the people who are going to be heading for the One Piece. This is your choose your fighter moment.
It is.
Cue the Smash Brothers theme music. Dun 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 dun. Buggy, Blackbeard, Luffy, Shanks, or his twin, or his Akainu.
More on that in a minute.
But yes, Dragon, Emu, Koby, Kuzan, interestingly, Figurlin Garling, and Sabo. All these different factions. This is our staging. This is our staging for the final war, and it's kind of a thrill to see. A lot of people are assuming this is the end of the broadcast message. Do you think that's the case?
I think this is it. I think I even went so far a few weeks ago as to say, like back when this started, that we would know the end when we get all 4 emperors on the panel. So I think this is it. Because they are the closest.
Yeah, I mean, it could be one of those things where like there might be like a PS, but like then the robot blows up. But it could, I don't know. I feel like you could end with like a Vegapunk being like, thanks for the memories. You know, not that he's the most sentimental.
Yeah. I guess we could get something like that. I mean, this thing has already gone significantly longer than I think any of us expected. I think we thought we were done when it cut out back when he was giving us the lore dump, but we still don't get to enjoy the Will of D secret yet. That one has to stay hidden.
So you're saying that Vegapunk's not going to be like, all right, don't forget to like this channel,
channel. I mean, he's really taken the Twitch streaming seriously, though. I mean, I got to give credit to Oda for like discovering HoloLive like 2 years ago and just leaning extremely hard into it ever since. Like, I respect it. I respect his level of fandom. But
it's like a real video. It's going to end with an ad for Vega Coffee, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, you got to recoup your costs somehow. He did develop that after all. But yeah, I think this is it. This is at the very least it's very clear the parallels between like Roger's speech and Whitebeard's speech, right? Like this is it. We've kind of had this vibe from the moment Egghead started. The anime has reflected this multiple times as well. Like this is all guns blazing. Cards are on the table. No more secrets except maybe one more. And then we're it's a mad dash to the One Piece. This is really, it's the final saga now. Like the Doflamingo speech is another one that kind of, when he's an Impel Down, kind of reminds me again, like there's so much contained in it, even though all it's really saying is like, okay, next stage of the story, let's go. There's not going to be another one of these. Not till the end anyway.
We did get to catch a quick glimpse at a bunch of characters. We saw Marco, for example. It looked like Marco was still on Whitebeard's island. I don't remember if the whole thing with him and Weevil was like post all this stuff, or if he just hasn't left yet. I just wanted to put that out there. And
he was still there at least when this all started, because he got back and we found out that Weevil was taken, and then we immediately got the Stussy reveal, basically. So I think he just hasn't had a chance to leave, and this has all started.
Yeah, he's like, well, I gotta get the ship ready, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
We saw a quick shot of Kizaru. Kizaru, who, I gotta assume the guy could get up at this point, but I'm sure he's just kind of like pretending to be asleep. Sentomaru, who appears to be okay. I forget what's up with Sentomaru at this point. Like, because I mean, Sentomaru's been through so much, and I forget like how he's kind of moved about the island since he's gotten stomped. So I guess we can assume Sentomaru escaped and is good to go. I hope. I like Sentomaru now.
Yeah, they're an ally now, right? So it's fair game. It's fine. They look fine. They look into better shape than Kizaru does, who is absolutely like faking being asleep here. That's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It has the like ... like he thinks he's dragon or something.
It's the Kizaru we know and love.
Exactly. I didn't need to cry again to see all the Kuma stuff, but about where we're at. very, very satisfying to see Saturn, torn up. I think that was kind of the catharsis that really seals. Like this feels like this could be like the last of the repel of the Gorosei, but who knows? There could be like one or more two things, but it just feels like we're there. Like Thousand Sunny has landed.
Yeah, you hit on something I wanted to hit on as well, which is that we're going to find out very soon if these guys float. There was debate a chapter ago about whether or not they're in the water. One of them is definitely in the water now, so can they swim?
They could also like do the summoning thing in midair. We don't really know.
I mean, something, right? Well, I think even if they did that, that's a good tell that the water, like, I still think that reveals something to us. But if there was like one final twist that Oda wanted to pull, it would be the confirmation that these are not devil fruits.
Yeah, but I guess, he wants to hold off. Now,
it's gotta happen. It's gotta happen now. Like, there's nowhere else for this guy to land. It's gotta be in the sea. So, I mean, I don't think he's dead unless he does in fact sink, which would be hilarious. I would love for that to happen. For the grand final moment of the Egghead incident to be one of the Gorosei just sank to the bottom of the sea. That would be magnificent. But
now it's 4 elders.
Yeah, right. But we'll see. Mars hasn't reappeared yet after getting launched, so like the teleportation stuff does seem to have some kind of limitation.
I do appreciate that, Shanks is also like kind of super drunk like Rayleigh is. I never really think that much about like, Rayleigh was like also a big mentor to Shanks. I think, the first time we see Shanks on like the Roger Pirates, like way back in East Blue, Rayleigh is the one who's kind of disciplining him and Buggy. And it looks like Shanks kind of like combines some of both Rayleigh and Roger's like fighting style. But that said, I just think it's charming, kind of sweet. I've been thinking a lot about where we go next. Honestly, I mean, this was a great chapter and all, but it's definitely, it's one of those chapters that feels like, okay, we are setting the stage, and you and I have talked about this a ton at this point, and so I guess we can always refresh on what we think is going to happen next. I know there's the whole thing where Oda has talked about how he considered skipping Elbaf, and that kind of put the nail in the coffin for some people of like, okay, so the final road poneglyph is not going to be in Elbaf. I think that's kind of set. Unless, Shanks had some rubbings or something that's on the island. But it's been building up to the man marked by flames. There are all the theories around that. I'd like to share one with you that I thought was kind of fun that someone shared with us. And also, I think Elbaf, I know I've talked about this, could be our next Zoe, which we thought Egghead was supposed to be. But it could just be sort of like a pit stop, something that Oda thought about skipping maybe because he felt like there wasn't that much for the whole crew to do there. Maybe it was more of an Usopp thing that he would go and, most of the Straw Hats would kind of move on to wherever they need to go next. A lot of people saying that Vira could be like the real next destination. It's been set up at this point, right? And other people saying that we could just be heading into like some kind of big staging for war, right? Something that brings Law in, maybe Kid, I guess, and all that good stuff. But of course, we need some kind of, the giant pirates, the Straw Hats, all kind of coalescing and figuring out their next move. Elbaf makes the most sense to go next because it's supposed to be so dangerous, right? Like around those waters. So the giants, I don't know where else they would go.
There's literally no reason for, like, they left Elbaf to go get Luffy and bring him to Elbaf. That's the only thing that makes sense. Now, to your point, that doesn't mean it's a full, like, 100 chapter arc. It could be a pit stop. We still haven't completely ruled out separating the Straw Hats or anything either. There's still, I think, maybe a couple of buffer chapters between this moment and actually starting the next arc. So there's some wiggle room, but he didn't say Elbaf just to take Elbaf away. We don't have time for that anymore. That's half the point of this chapter, is to say we don't do that no more.
Right. Yeah, we're not going to do the whole sort of like, Loki has a problem, climb the beanstalk and do all. I mean, maybe we'll still do that, but it might just be sort of like a Zoe thing where it's like a couple of hijinks and then we're moving on. But that said, I mean, there really is no time because Shanks has a lot of the rubbings right now, right? So in terms of the road poneglyphs, Blackbeard, I think everybody has 3. except for, let's see, Law had the Zoe one. Law also had, for sure, Wano. I don't remember if Law had Whole Cake. Kid, though, had 3. Because Kid infiltrated Whole Cake. He got Wano, and it's implied that he got Zoe as well from Law. Because when he got, and the anime confirmed that this wasn't a mistake, when he got to Elbaf, he was like, we're going to get the last one from Shanks. So I guess the implication is that Shanks has the 4th one.
The big question would be, did Law get Whole Cake? Because that tells us whether or not Blackbeard did. Now, all of this to say that Blackbeard could still have Whole Cake. Anyway,
Blackbeard probably did, because they went to Whole Cake Island and they knew that Big Mom had it.
Yeah, so they either got it there, right?
I'm sure they did.
Or they got it from Law, if Law had it. Notably, neither
but it was never confirmed the Law had it, right? I don't know when unless Luffy shared it with him. Like, if they all just kind of shared it with each other.
If Robin did, which, let's be real here, she probably did for the same reason they shared the other one. But we don't have it.
They share the other one because
so
Law happened to. Well, Law happened to be there, and Law happened to be at Zoe. I don't remember like anybody going out of their way to share with each other, except for that's Law sharing with Kid.
We don't have it. We don't have it in text that it's a thing that we have. So it's up in the air. But whether or not Law has it is kind of a moot point, like you said, because at least some Blackbeard pirates infiltrated Whole Cake. So if Kid could do it, Blackbeard's crew could do it. Pretty easy. My
guess is that Blackbeard got the Wano rubbings from Law, but got the Whole Cake Island rubbings himself, and also got the Zoe rubbings from Law. So
that makes
now Blackbeard has 3. And my thinking is then that Shanks does have a road poneglyph. He has the 4th one. He has it from the man marked by Flames, which is, who knows? That's still a bit of a mystery. But I think that that's how Blackbeard gets it. He gets it from Shanks, I would assume. And then, because that sets up all kinds of stuff. And then Luffy and them, I guess, like, their next thing is the man marked by Flames, who could be in Vira, who could be somewhere in the New World that, before we get to Lodestar and all that stuff.
So, notably, and this is why I don't think, like, people who are like, okay, it's time to do Final War stuff, I don't think we're there yet. I do think that we have a lot less time to like do teasing out of stuff, but I don't think we are at let's start setting up, the final act yet.
I think Final War is like the race to the One Piece. I think we're in the stage of like the final road poneglyph.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it'll
we need, there's a lot of people who have no poneglyphs, right? And as far as we know, have no records of them. Most notably Cross Guild. If Cross Guild is going to be even accidentally on this track, and I think we can safely say that they are going to be.
I think they go after Luffy.
Something. That seems like the obvious answer, right?
Yeah.
Because Mihawk is there, we kind of need to start heading towards a resolution for that. Crocodile, of course, has a bone to pick. Buggy, they could also go for Shanks, but I doubt that because Buggy knows
they're
better.
more afraid of Shanks.
Yeah,
I think that's the thing. Shanks and Blackbeard, they're going to look at Luffy and say he's an idiot. Like, yes, he's one of the Yonko, but we stand a better chance against him than the Titanics, the Titanic captains, or Shanks, who is like basically the strongest character in the story as far as we understand.
Mm-hmm. We also have Blackbeard, who might not necessarily be going straight for the 4th poneglyph. He may be going for weapons. Don't forget that's a factor.
That's true. His crew is kind of scattered at this point, which it makes me wonder then, okay, why would then Blackbeard go after Shanks? I think instead it would be happenstance that he would run into Shanks, or Shanks would be the one going after Blackbeard, because Shanks, we know, has a bone to pick with him. And I think Shanks would be like, I need to knock this chess piece off the board. So I wouldn't assume Blackbeard would go out of his way for this confrontation, but I do think that it's been set up that way, that
I think I agree.
The confrontation is going to happen because Shanks is the one who's going to seek it out. He knows that Blackbeard has the rubbings, right? Or, now that I think about it.
So we know Shanks is leaving Elbaf. The big question is has he left Elbaf yet? He was getting ready to depart back when Kid showed up. Dory and Brody were there. Water. Yeah, it's on the water. They're getting ready to depart. Kid shows up. Dory and Brogy are there. Then we flash forward, a night, which is basically 20 minutes in One Piece time. And Dory and Brogy are en route to Egghead, and they show up, right? Shanks obviously isn't with them. That makes a modicum of sense. Shanks has made it clear that there's like a specific moment that he wants to reconnect with Luffy, and for some reason that is not yet. So he's not tagging along for this. So he's either still in Elbaf, or he's not. If he's just left Elbaf and Luffy's just missed him, I think that sets up absolutely a conflict with Blackbeard that kind of robs.
I think he's for sure left Elbaf because we see his ship and they're talking to them. They're on the open water.
It seems like he's actually left. Yeah, but
again, I think he's headed for my guess, Hachinosu, and off to confront Blackbeard himself, and have all that stuff happen. So that's how I see it. And the way that I see Cross Guild then is that I think that Luffy, Elbaf, I think Luffy and crew are going to try to find the man marked by flames. They're going to get another clue. Maybe Jacquardy Saul is going to have them. Who knows? And Cross Guild is going to basically try to poach it, scavenge it, be pirates, and like follow them and be part of the chaos. And I think that that's going to be a thing that like runs all the way through to like the final war, where they're just trying to basically like steal at the last second, or maybe they have skirmishes. Who knows?
Yeah, there's a lot of running around. There's also the reality that all of this has to hit the newspaper still, right? Luffy doesn't know about the Garp situation, but he will find out. That's something Robin will absolutely include him in on once the next newspaper drops. And we know that there will be a newspaper drop. That was already forewarned that was going to be reported.
I think that's how the Cross Guild will know that Luffy's with the Giants.
Yeah.
Because that'll probably be reported.
That seems decently likely, yeah. Ooh, what if the situation on Elbaf is a straight up confrontation with the Cross Guild? Instead of it being like a lot of people have floated like an encounter with Shanks or even with like Loki or anything like that, the Cross Guild show up halfway through and interrupt things.
That's what I'm thinking. And I'm thinking that the Marines might not be fully engaged with everything going on because they have to deal with the Revolutionary Army. Because I think they're going to enter the stage, and that's going to be so dire that the admirals are going to have to mobilize against Sabo, Dragon, and them. And that's what's going to kind of like set the stage for like everybody kind of meeting in one place. But I still don't totally see how the Revolutionary Army kind of gets to where they need to go. They don't have any rubbings. They theoretically they're new to the whole One Piece thing.
This might be why, because some people have noticed this, and we'll talk about the mystery on the page soon enough, I'm sure. But people have noted that, you have the four emperors, and you have Dragon, and then you have multiple people who belong to the same faction. You have Dragon and Sabo on the page. You have Akainu and Figureland Garling and Mystery Man, potentially, and Emu. You have Aokiji, who's just here, but he's technically a part of the Blackbeard Pirates, right? What's the deal there? A lot of people have taken this to hint that we're looking at multiple different sub-factions as well. So if you have Sabo and Dragon, they split to do two different things. Maybe Sabo tries to intercept Luffy and tries to finally recruit him, or it's the other way around, and Sabo takes the vanguard and starts skirmishing with like the Holy Knights, because we know they're supposed to enter the fray. That would be our Garlings here. And Dragon finally decides it's time to connect with Luffy and try to recruit him to the cause. Maybe that's what this is about.
I like that. Yeah, I like that.
And we split that up. Same with like Koby and Akainu. It's not like all of the Marines, right, are going to set out to try to find the One Piece or intercept this information. We know that there's two factions in the Marines. That's why these two are on the page. And then Aokiji, clearly there's something still going on he's not like a hardcore Blackbeard loyalist, so it's not surprising to see him on the page. We've floated multiple times that maybe he's a double, triple agent. It's also possible he's just in it for himself. He's decided that the way to get the justice he wants to see in the world is to do it himself. And so his plan is to get the One Piece for himself and leverage that power. The reality is that up until this moment, the One Piece has been this unknown quantity. For us, it's always been the most important thing in the world. because we know how much of the mystery of it is tied to everything else. We know how much it's critical to Luffy's dream, etc. But the revolutionaries haven't had a motivation to go after it until now, right?
Yeah.
The same with the Marines, and we've talked a lot about this as recently as last episode. Why wasn't the world government trying to detain Laugh-Tale? Why weren't they trying to obtain the One Piece themselves? Do they know what it is? Safe to say yes, potentially, but there's a lot of question about it. We had a theory in the Discord earlier today about it being an instance where there's only a set period of time where you could even attempt to reach the island, and that's why they haven't done it. And the only way to get it just right is to have the basically the geo coordinates and the information from the poneglyphs. But even then, Emu kind of messes up all those theories, right? So where do all these little pieces fit in? I think we're going to see them splinter further and take their own actions, kind of as a consequence, again, of Luffy kind of unshackling everything and set loose chaos, basically.
Speaking of chaos, got to talk about that little silhouette.
We got to talk about the silhouette, and not Emu this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only non-Emu silhouette, and it, there were a lot of people who were really being like, it's Shanks' evil twin, like that's confirmed or something. And look, I get it. We've talked about this. There's been plenty of hints that there's a Shanks doppelganger, but I don't know, Travis. The sword is kind of short. Okay,
this is so hard. This is so hard because it's bait. Because you're right, the sword does look like Griffin, and the jawline does kind of look like Shanks, and the nose does
looks like a One Piece
like
character. Let's be
right.
real.
It's like it does kind of, and then he's using a hand that we know Shanks doesn't have, and he did that on purpose. He did that specifically to force this conversation to happen, which leads me to question if he's doing it to throw us off.
Yeah, sure. Because, my first thought when I saw this was not evil Shanks. It was, man marked by flames, and there's been some revitalization of some of the main contenders for who that might be. One of the most fun ones that I personally like is Deuce's. Ace's. We've talked about this before, I think.
We have.
That, where he, he's long been a contender. I love the Ace light novels, and his character would be so fun to bring back in. Lots of good evidence that it's him, in fact, but definitely he doesn't have a sword like that necessarily, if I'm recalling correctly. But for people who don't know or remember, he ate the other half of the Mira Mira no Mi, and of course didn't get the powers because Ace ate it first, technically. But that's
how we know that rule works. But we talked at length about this, but just as a refresher, because I do think it's a really strong theory, his ship is burned. It has black etchings from Ace's flame, so it's literally.
And he says that
flames.
in the light novel that's on, they burned the ship because he thinks that makes it stronger in the water. There's also the whirlpool stuff because it's been hinted that the ship, that someone's able to sink all the ships around, right? And that was basically how he and Ace met, was through this mysterious phenomenon of a whirlpool, where these whirlpools are preventing them from escaping this island together. And there could be a sort of that's a connection to his powers or something. So anyway.
Yeah. It's still a really strong contender for a theory. And I agree with you. My second thought was this very well may be the man marked by flames. I would even go so far as to say, here's my personal hot take, that it's both. People are very much it's either this or it's this. I contend that it's both.
I don't think Deuce is evil Shanks, though.
No, I just, this is my personal crackpot that I barely believe it myself. But we have had the debate over whether or not Shanks went to marry Joa. We have had, for a very long time, the big question. Hey, Oda, does Shanks have a twin? Because it's really wild that he's able to go fight Kaido and then show up at Marineford and do this and do that. And Oda intentionally doesn't answer that question. We've had that lingering in the background forever. We've had suggestions that Shanks knows how to use the undersea currents to move around. But, I mean, it's not impossible that Garling has another son out there.
Right.
And
the Holy Knight silhouette.
Right. And if the man marked by flames does have the fourth poneglyph, if it's someone who is at least theoretically aligned with the world government, that starts to answer questions. It answers, why didn't they go after the One Piece? Answer, they didn't need to. They went and found the poneglyph, captured it, and have held it hostage. That's it. It's not a perfect answer, but it is at least an answer in a direction that starts making some of these other pieces come together. The point isn't necessarily to find the One Piece. The point is to stop anybody else from doing it. This theoretically works. And again, if you are somebody who has the last key to this thing that the most intelligent man on the planet has now said is the key to controlling the entire world, you might want to grab your sword. You know what I mean? Like, you might be getting ready for a little bit of a skirmish here and there. So I do think whoever it is, it's more the latter, probably the man marked by flames. But I can't not see the trolling happening here, right? I can't see the troll. Not like, it looks like Griffin. It's not a hand Shanks has anymore. Why you got to do us like this, Oda? Because we're not going to get an answer to this for like 2 years. There's no way.
Minimum.
Well,
we shouldn't say that because there might be some of that stuff coming up in the next,
Yeah, it happens in 2 weeks.
Yeah, because I know I mentioned Vira before, and there could also be like a Holy Knights versus the Revolutionary Army, because we know that there are like coup d'etats still happening, and there's like turmoil, so that could be how the story, twists forward. But yeah, I gotta say, remind me though, the fourth poneglyph, was that the one that was originally at Fishman Island, but that got moved, or am I thinking like?
Yeah, it got moved.
Okay, because I know I can remember if Big Mom was the one who moved it because that was in her territory.
No, because and some people even thought that maybe that was the one in Whole Cake, but as far as we know, nobody knows where that one went.
Okay.
Because the one in Whole Cake is, I believe, the one that Jinbei found.
He found. Okay, well, okay.
If I might be wrong, the Discord will correct me, I'm sure. But the Fishman Island one is the one that we know Roger got, and no one else did. And notably, that is the one that went missing, not the other one that has like the apology from Joy Boy and everything on it.
And that's the bait. Yeah, and that's the bait, right, for why people think that Gabon is the one who's the man marked by flames, right?
Yeah.
So
somebody
gotta
knows.
Mention him.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not him in the picture,
knows.
Is it?
It doesn't look like it. But again, it wouldn't be the first vague silhouette Oda's ever drawn. There's another one standing right next to it. So, I don't know. It's such a tease. He does this all the time. He's so good at doing this before break weeks, just giving us something that we just have to chew on like a piece of gum that never loses flavor. It's just nuts.
We can always chew on.
You mentioned another theory about the man marked by flames you wanted to share.
Yeah. No, I don't want to. I'm just so enamored by it. I know. Well, I'm just... It's kind of a silly one. Huh?
How could it be more silly than what I just did?
Well, I don't have in front... But it's this kind of thing about, like, playing more into, like, the Davy Jones stuff. And it being more of, like, it's underwater. And it's a ship that kind of, like, goes underwater. Like, kind of playing more into, like, the Fishman stuff.
It's like a literal Flying Dutchman.
Exactly, which I know we already have Flying Dutchman in the story, but like it's just this idea that like because of the connection to Fishman Island and also because of my pet theory of Joy Boy being a fishman, that I would love for that to be how it's revealed. So there's not that much to it, but I mean, I just think that it'd be kind of cool if it was like not just a character we've heard of before, but it could be this like totally somewhat new thing that could maybe redeem Hody being such a lame Fishman villain. To me,
I mean, we gotta go back.
Yes, it stands.
We gotta go back. We gotta go back underwater, right? Like that door's open now. It's been open.
You're here to hear first, folks. We got to go back underwater. We gotta
go back. It's like that Lost season finale. We gotta go back.
Well, that's the thing. If the Straw Hats were sunk, and that's what happened to them, that'd be kind of a fun, twist of fate. But anyway. So I did want to just, say that the stocks for Bonnie joining the Straw Hats went up another 4 points this week. We saw Liberation, Nika Punch, she and Luffy having their, again, like the Eni Sloppy stuff, echoing. And I know not everybody's a believer. Not everybody's a Bonnie believer.
They need to get on board. They need to buy in before these stocks just become that they jackpot. Like it's
they need to board the sea train too.
They got to get on. Yeah, they got to go to the moon with us. You know what I mean? Like this has one of my favorite things about Luffy in One Piece is there are these really subtle panels that Oda will draw from time to time. They're not the biggest action scenes. They're not, instantly iconic, but they are so revealing about Luffy as a character. And Luffy is the only character who gets these kind of panels in this particular way because of the way Luffy is written. And it's that moment in the first page where like he's batting back Saturn and everything, and he looks down at Bonnie and he makes this like connection in his head. And Luffy doesn't have an internal monologue. That's the rule. He's not going through a whole thing in his head. This is pure instinct. This is just pure kind of empath energy. But that's when he decides that she has to do it. And like he didn't need to be in the bubble. He doesn't need to hear the story. He doesn't need to be in the flashback with us. He's never needed it. He sees it right now. This is the thing that Bonnie needs the most. And fully taking everything that Luffy has done over the course of all these arcs, putting it right here, and truly making him somebody who's not just a savior, but
a big bro.
He includes these people in their liberation. And in the case of Bonnie, joining her in an attack, punching out Saturn, it's the most literalization of that we've gotten yet, where it's not just, you have to help me take him down. Oh, you have to land a punch, that kind of thing. It's literally, no, I'm going to keep the door open. I'm going to get this opening for you, but you have to do this. You got to do it. It's for your own sake. And I can tell it just by looking at you. And that's what's so great about Luffy as a character is those moments where just like for a brief moment, he just has to look at somebody and knows.
Look at where Koby is. Koby in that final panel, our boy who like
he's come so far.
He really has. Like he's like sitting there like amongst these titans, one of them literally, right? And like he's just kind of like in that mix because Luffy gave him that look and pushed him into a new era as well. So yeah, that's so much of what the story is about at a fundamental level. So well said. Yeah, I didn't have much else. I mean, there are a bunch of other like scattered shots that I didn't even get into, like seeing iceberg and Vira, seeing that Neo Mads is as contentious as we would have predicted. We do get a quick glimpse of Warcury and Jupiter, who are still surrounding the Iron Giant Emmett. And so that looks like it's about to come to a head. But yeah, fun chapter, good chapter. Comments-wise, we have a good amount. I'm not going to be able to go through all of them, but we'll do what we can. We will take a look. So TMB1112 said, the mysterious shadow is definitely the person with access to the final road poneglyph, and probably the second strongest swordsman in the whole series. After Zoro defeats him, the only one left to face will be Mihawk. Do you think, Travis, Zoro has another major enemy before Mihawk? I mean, he got to fight, Lucci here. I feel like Mihawk's next, isn't he? Shouldn't he?
Zoro's swords are not black.
Right.
I think.
So that you think that's when we're going to know?
I think at least the Wado Ichimonji needs to be black before we get there. And the only
blackens
reason I say that,
during the fight.
Yeah, or blackens during the fight. Or it's like about to, because we still don't fully have that explained. like we kind of for a while thought that might be hockey. And to be entirely honest, it might still just be hockey. It was established so long ago that maybe that was supposed to be a hockey hint.
But I still like the idea that like the straw hat is imbued with hockey, and that's why it's so silly and durables. Yeah,
that makes
I'm down with that.
Sense. Yeah, that just makes plenty of sense. So it, but at least visually, I think that's a good indicator, like that Zoro has actually reached that point. We do also have, of course, the original Kitetsu now in the mix as well. I think Zoro has clocked that and has an interest in regaining that, and that might be a factor in getting to Mihawk as well. It's one of those things where it's just like, how many full arcs do we have before we do just start doing a final arc is kind of where we are with that. But I do think that there's plenty of people for Zoro to cut still between now and then.
Yeah, he'll cut them. But yeah, to me, like in terms of like, a king level, foe, I question like, okay, are we, how close are we? We might be pretty close, but okay. Straw Hat Luffy 7 said, incredible chapter. Luffy and Bonnie tag teaming attack on Saturn was so sick. Loved seeing Bonnie get revenge on him. The hype at the end is unreal. So excited for what's to come. Well, what's to come is still going to be an extra week away because we're on break, but that's okay. And we'll maybe talk later about what we're going to do on our break week. Klein Ozquoro said, it's nice to finally reach the midway point to this story. Travis, can you imagine? Can you imagine Oda doing this for another 23, 24, 25 years?
Don't give him any ideas. It's a really good joke, though. That's such a good bit.
Pretty good. All right, but I would say no. We're probably more only like a quarter of the way there. Pikeman said, I get the feeling that not everyone on that last page is a contender for finding the One Piece, just the top 4. Luffy, Blackbeard, Shanks, and Buggy. The bottom 8 will play kingmakers, their actions directly affecting who wins. Calling it now, Shanks and Buggy will reach the last island only to do what Roger did and turn around and leave. The last battle coming down to Luffy and Blackbeard. Luffy being supported by pirates that value being free, but don't view it as a right to hurt people. The Revolutionary Army, and finally Sword. Blackbeard will ironically be supported by the world government and pirates who don't care if they hurt people. I like a lot of this. I especially like that Blackbeard would be the one that the world government kind of coalesces around. We've gotten some setup for that already, because if you recall in this arc, there was the whole thing where Blackbeard talks about how he wants to, be basically not a celestial dragon, but to be like a king, not king of the pirates, or not just king of the pirates, but have his own kingdom within the world government. And it kind of makes sense. He's worked with them before as a warlord.
There's the Zebek connection, right?
Yeah, it's kind of uncanny actually that how well that kind of works, especially with the world government and celestial dragons also kind of having a lot of beef and turmoil within the Marines. I also like this because you do have like the sword stuff. You do have the Marines kind of cut in half. That whole thing that's brewing, quite honestly.
Yeah, king making. Now that's an interesting idea because it does kind of make more sense of who's on the page, right? Koby doesn't really want this authority, I think. Same with probably Sabo, if we're being honest here. I don't think either of those characters really strike me as, I want to be the one to herald that change. So the idea that they end up rallying behind Luffy, I like that idea. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's like the presidential election. It's like the donors, and it's like everyone kind of picking their candidate.
Yeah, your campaign heads and your canvassers. Bartolomeo should be on here if we were doing that, but you know what I mean. The only thing that I will the only thing that I will push back on, and that's because I still think this is the best possible gag for this, and that is that Luffy attains the One Piece, but Buggy gets the credit for it. I need Buggy the Clown to be there so that he can steal the credit, Mr. Satan style. That is the that is the only way that you could end Buggy's story, is him literally fail sunning his way to King of the Pirates.
It's a gag manga, so it kind of needs to happen. You're right. And then he, of course, relinquishes the crown to Luffy out of fear.
Yeah. Luffy is the true King of the Pirates in spirit because he's the most free. But like we've discussed, I don't think the title is necessarily what Luffy is after so much as what that title means. So the papers can call Buggy the King of the Pirates as much as Luffy cares, as far as anybody's concerned. But we know who the real one is. And it'll be very funny.
These two kings met, in
at the very beginning,
Orangetown.
And one of them kicked the other in the groin. It's just like, it's too funny to not do something with. Like, Buggy at this point just has to be there at the end. Like, regardless of anything, how could we not, after everything we have dragged this poor man through?
Cypher J said, not quite the end of Egghead yet. Will the giant robot take out Venus and Jupiter? No. Now that it appears Yamato's apology tour has ended, what? Will Yamato be joining the crew, or at least assisting, perhaps getting Pluton? We have the Elbaf arc next, then Lodestar, and also an arc about the moon colonies before we get to the Laugh Tale. Lots of past history to still reveal, including Luffy's mother and likely the current Time Devil Fruit Eater. I also do not see Shanks taking on the Cross Guild next. Shanks and Buggy were very close on Roger's crew, and Shanks is also somewhat friends with Mihawk. Blackbeard looking to take on the last old Yonko makes more sense. So I'll take this piece by piece.
You kind of already did.
the giant robot will not take out Venus and Jupiter. No chance, no shot. Yamato's not an apology tour. It's the pilgrimage. It's the Golden Surrogate pilgrimage. And no, it's not over. We just took a little break.
We needed a giant woman for a week. It's fine.
Yeah, and I don't know when we have time for Yamato to join the crew at this point. I don't see that. I mean, I think Yamato will come back into the story, but that just speaks to kind of how accelerated things are starting to get, and it feels like we are not in that place. In terms of Elbaf, I think if it's an Elbaf arc, that might be overstating it, but I guess we'll see. I don't think Lodestar is going to be an arc at all. It's going to be a pit stop for sure. Moon colonies. I want to go to the moon, Travis, but I don't know. I mean, in terms of like going to the moon, I feel like that's endgame stuff. Like real.
There was an interview this past week, and it got posted in our Discord. Again, join our Discord; it's in the show notes. With Kohei Horikoshi, the author of My Hero Academia, and during that interview, he revealed that he has Oda-style detailed backstories written out for a bunch of characters who enter the story later in the series. And when the interviewer asks if he was going to draw those later in the future as like supplemental content, he just straight up said no, because the point of them of knowing that is not to put it to page. It's to use it to inform those characters as a writer and leave those little tidbits for the fans to pick up on and think about and like build up the world. I don't think we need every single little piece of world building from the Void Century to be an arc that explains things to us. We could go to the moon, but we could also not go to the moon. I don't think that's mandatory.
Like how you're bargaining. But no, you're like, you're totally spot on.
But I don't think it's mandatory. Like, yeah, NL went to the moon. Yeah, there are robots on the moon. We found those same robots on the planet. We know that at one point people lived on the moon and they came back down. We don't need to go to the moon to fill in these pieces. We don't even necessarily need to have it explained in detail to figure out what these pieces are for. Like we've already been doing it. Like, you don't need every little nook and cranny like explained in grand detail. I think Vegapunk's message is kind of the last one of these we're really going to get outside of maybe like a proper Void Century flashback, which I would love personally. But even that is not going to be like a year's worth of One Piece talking about how they achieved moon travel. That's not necessary. Like we can enjoy some of these world building moments without having to make them like a check mark on the journey to the One Piece. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. And also, I mean, let's just say that them going to the moon, I mean, if that's Luffy's dream, which it's still in my top 5 favorite Luffy's dream theories, then we got to do it at the end. And that's fine too.
Then that's totally different, right? Because that means more than just answering the questions. But just like the idea, like, oh, we got to do a moon colony. No, we don't. Not right now. There's not enough, like, it's not mandatory. It'd be cool, but it's not mandatory.
James Maki said, humanity isn't ready for Marine King Koby. I agree, Travis. His dream is to be an admiral, though. I guess we got to be fair.
I know. I mean, like I said, I don't think he wants that kind of authority. Koby is a Luffy convert, as we talked about earlier. So this idea of like being a king, like an actual king, probably is the furthest from what he wants to be, right? So
Yeah.
I do like the I do like flipping it on its head and making a Marine king. That would be kind of fun. Like if Akainu, like if that's why Akainu is like in the running for the One Piece, is he's decided that like much like Aokiji, the only way to get his version of justice is to become a king. That would be kind of rad.
Yeah. Admiral King. Homerman76 agrees with you, Travis, and says, the theories that Buggy will be the one to claim the One Piece are still such a funny twist that seems more and more plausible as time goes on, especially after that the one who claims it may not be the one Joy Boy intended.
I'm telling you, it's too funny to not at least play with as long as possible. There's no way. How has he failed his way this far not to take it all the way?
And that's the comments. We don't know yet for sure, or we haven't talked about for sure yet what we are going to be doing for the break week. I'm sure we will figure something out. There's a lot in the world of anime to talk about for sure. There's, me, I got all my trash isekai. I can talk about those for days. But also new seasons of a lot of stuff that's coming out. I don't know. Are you a fan of Fairy Tail, Travis? I'm not. I haven't really watched any of it, but I know the Fairy Tail fans are having a good time. Also,
yeah,
Nier
they
fans.
seem to be eating good. Yeah, Nier's finally into its weird stuff.
Oshinoko.
You owe me a conversation about Loser Ranger still. I do. That.
We
promised
a little.
We promised the listeners almost a year ago now Jujutsu Kaisen. So I mean, at this point, we almost shouldn't do it because
that's
funny.
A dream. Luffy's dream to go to the moon is more plausible than my dream, than your dream to talk about Jujutsu Kaisen. I feel like at this point. Well, you know what? Never say never. Never say never. But all right, well, that'll do it for this week's episode of Rookie Pirate Radio. If you have a suggestion for something you want us to talk about either next week or a future week on the program, be sure to email us, rookiepirateradio@gmail.com, or hit us up in the Discord. Please join the Discord if you'd like to hang out with us. We'd love to hang out with you. And last but not least, if you want to help us out anyway, if you like what you're listening to, you can go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify and you can leave us a rating, which is super helpful and nice. You can also leave reviews as well. And on Spotify, you can also comment on the show. You can interact with us there too if you want. Can't wait to hear from you. But with that, we'll see you all on the next horizon.